Subscribe now.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to episode 3 of the Bigfoot Influencers podcast on the Untold Radio AM network. So happy for you all to be joining us tonight. And I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Dana, and I'll have her say hello to everyone.
Hey, everybody. I'm super excited to be here tonight for episode 3 and super excited to have Diane. I've heard so many cool things about her and read her chapter in the book. So we're super excited to have her on. We did want to just do a little chit chat about our other shows that we have here on the Untold Radio AM. So I was actually looking through here. So looking through here on my iPad of what we have here. So we have the Odyssey files. So Tim, can you say a little bit about that? Or
sure. I think what's really cool about what the Untold Radio AM network has put together is there's, I think, 8 or 9 podcasts now, and Doug and Alex, sorry if I got the number wrong, but it varies from paranormal to cryptozoology, Bigfoot, just weird encounters is another one. There's just a bunch of them, and the Odyssey files, like Dana said. There's just a bunch of them, and I just encourage everyone to check out the YouTube channel or check out the podcast network. Like it, follow it. There's just a lot of cool things. I'm trying to catch up on all the episodes. What's exciting is we're dropping, I think, 1 episode every day, so it just gives the audience a really cool opportunity to hear a lot of different things. So I think I kind of danced around that what you asked me, but I wanted to kind of cover everything. So
yeah, and let's not forget about what our show is about. So our show is obviously the Bigfoot influencers. We are not the influencers, but we interview the influencers and researchers and people who are influencing the subject of Bigfoot. So that's why we're here. We're exclusively trying to get you to know better the people in the Bigfoot world. And we're super excited to have Diane tonight. And so I don't know if Tim, you were ready to bring her on.
Sure, we'll bring Diane on. Yeah. Just again, we're super excited to have Diane Stocking here on the podcast. Diane was so nice and kind to jump in and help me with the book. She's featured in the book, so everyone check that out as well. Diane, I'll let her talk a little bit about herself. I know she's got a degree in forestry. She's been involved in the subject for even though she looks super duper young, you would not believe it how long she's been involved in it. And I'll let her talk a little bit about that. But without any further ado, let's bring Diane into the studio.
Hey, Diane.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Good. Good? Where are you located? What area are you in?
I'm in Welch's, Oregon, in the foothills of Mount Hood.
Okay. So you're not over here on the East Coast having crazy weather like we've been having. For
no, not anymore. I used to be in Florida, and I've been quite in touch with friends and family members that are still in Florida. Everybody's okay there. So
good. That's good to know.
That's important. Good to know. Yeah. I know you and I chatted about that the other day, and we're still getting rain here. So I mean, this podcast is maybe a day or 2 later from when we record it, but we're still getting the remnants of it up here.
Yeah, we're up here in southern Delaware along the shore. Okay. So yeah, it's been basically pouring rain for the past 2 days. So that's always fun.
That'll happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I guess you can hear us okay. I just want to do a quick audio check. Awesome.
Yep,
which is I've been super excited. This is our 3rd podcast, and just extremely excited to have you joining us. We had your good friend Kathy Strain on the last podcast, so we may talk about Kathy a little bit later.
Awesome woman.
And then so without that, do you want to jump into it?
Yeah, so we always want to get to know our influencers on a personal level. So if that's okay with you, we'd like to ask you a few questions.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, awesome. So as you were mentioning before, you grew up in Florida, and that was in southern Florida, right?
Southern Florida, yes.
Okay, so what did you like about it living there?
I didn't.
Okay. What? Okay, great. This leads into
No,
the next question. What didn't you like?
The heat, the flatness. Yeah,
Okay.
I just, and growing up in South Miami, Cutler Ridge, Homestead, which is like, I lived about 35 minutes north of Key Largo,
Okay.
the first key. So I was way south.
Really
And
south.
I grew up without air conditioning. My schools I went to had no air conditioning. So yeah, I hate the heat.
Yeah.
And so I eventually finally got to move out to Oregon.
And so that situation's a lot different, right?
Oh,
In
yes.
Oregon.
Yes, I love
Because
it
you
here.
generally have like still a wet kind of climate, but it's not like that sticky, nasty, humid, hot thing.
No, the humidity is not here. And I
Okay.
chuckle sometimes when friends of mine out here say, "Oh my gosh, it's so humid." I'm like, "Oh, this is nothing."
Oh my God.
So
Yeah, we get it here, but nothing like Florida.
Yeah.
Do your friend, once you moved out there, did you have anyone that was trying to pick up your accent and trying to guess where you were from that didn't know?
Some people said I had a Southern accent. I'm like, I do not have a Southern accent. Not in Florida. Nowhere near like my relatives in Virginia.
Right.
And friends in Alabama and Georgia. No, I do not have a Southern accent compared to them.
It is fascinating, because we're not too far. We're in Delaware, but the Southern accents that start. I mean, we have different accents down here, even in Southern Delaware and the Eastern Shore of Maryland. But then once you get to Florida, they all go away. It's just the weirdest thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Southern, but it's not. There's so many Northerners that live there,
right?
That, and everybody's come from somewhere else to move and live in Florida. My dad, he grew up in Miami. He lived like 3 blocks from the Orange Bowl, the original Orange Bowl, and but so many people are from elsewhere that you don't really have a Southern accent there. If you move to Northern Florida, you hear more of the Southern accents there.
That makes sense. So you mentioned, when another thing we talked a lot about kids and grandkids, when we were doing the book, and I know you've got kids and grandkids. How many grandkids do you have?
I have 5 grandchildren, 4 grandsons, and 1 granddaughter.
Wow, that's so cool.
You're so lucky.
I know. What do you enjoy most about being a grandma?
Spending time with them and then giving them back, like all grandparents. Like, you can do whatever you want. It doesn't matter what your children say. You can do whatever you want with them, and it's fun. You can have fun with them, but the stress isn't there of raising them like you had with your children.
Now, are they all there close to you?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're so lucky.
All but one of them, and they're all right here, and I love them to death. But it's just, you can enjoy spending time with them because the stress level is not there like being a parent.
Absolutely.
You can still, you can discipline them, you can love them, you can spoil them, and it's the stress is not there. So that's the main thing. With kids, you've got the stress of raising them, protecting them, providing for them, working, all that. But with the grandkids, that's not there. You can just enjoy being with them. So
we got a little bit.
Maybe
our oldest one just got married. So
yes, congratulations.
We got a little bit of time probably, but
maybe not. Maybe only a year, but we do have a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot here too, Diane. We talked a little bit about music too when we did the book. So Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Fleetwood Mac song?
The Chain.
Oh, that's a good choice. Okay.
Stevie Nicks rocks.
That's my favorite with
awesome.
them. Yeah, so
she's the coolest ever by far.
Oh yeah.
Back in the day, she had those awesome outfits. She still wears them. She
still wears them, and it's amazing. But I always loved her voice more than anything else.
So unique.
Yes.
It is definitely so unique for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, she's a really, really cool lady. So do you ever bring your grandkids out into the woods?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Not real. I mean, because it's always with one of my kids. I've got 3 boys, and so it's usually taking them out hiking for a little bit. But that's, if they know if they want to do something, it's going to the woods.
Right,
So, yeah.
right.
And
And then obviously that's something that you do on your own too.
Yeah.
So what do you enjoy most about being in the woods?
Just the quiet. Some people understand when I say when I'm out there I can breathe. Yeah, just the quiet, stress level goes down to nothing when I'm out there. I just like being out there by myself and hiking around, or just sitting by myself somewhere. When I was in Florida, I used to take my tree stand and go climb up trees and just sit out there all day, just sitting there observing nature. It's wonderful. I just love to sit there and observe everything that's around me and take it all in.
Is that what led you into getting into forestry?
No, actually, Bigfoot got me into forestry.
Oh, why don't you share that story then?
Well, it just because I started researching Bigfoot when I was 14, and so I knew if I wanted to have more time out in the woods, I needed to be able to have be in a field where I would be out in the woods. And of course, I love nature and animals anyway. So that kind of pushed me into that field more. It was between that and a veterinarian, and I just, I didn't want to go to school that long. So I could still do animal behavior in forestry, where I could go in, get my degree, and get out, and then get into the field.
Right. So what exactly did you do, in your career with forestry?
Marked timber, surveyed, worked with the Fish and Game during this hunting season at check stations, and then in the lab counting worms. So, yeah. But did some animal behavior studies. Unfortunately, when back then, during my early years of forestry, working with both the feds and Florida State Fish and Wildlife, it was during the recession, the major recession, end of the 70s, early 80s. And so the jobs weren't plentiful. So eventually there were no more jobs. They weren't hiring at all. And so I ended up having to go into a different field, which was working for Florida Power and Light as a meter reader. And so that, I did some, when I first moved out here to Oregon, I worked with a very short time as a assistant forest ranger. But that was seasonal. So I needed something where I could actually work year round. And so that got, eventually money and paying bills tends to have an effect on that.
Exactly.
So, we definitely know that.
So you said that you got this job in forestry because you wanted to get out in the woods more. What led you? And you said you started researching at 14. What led you into the whole Bigfoot thing, even as a young girl?
A sighting by a man, Smith was his last name, in 1974. And he was early one morning going to work and he was on Alligator Alley which runs through the Everglades. Mm-hmm. And something came out in front of his car and he hit it. And he just said it was a big gorilla. And it was a huge thing. At the time, and I can't remember, I'd have to look back, but he was driving either like a Cadillac or a Lincoln, huge. Back in the 70s, those cars were huge. And
they were like a tank.
Yeah, exactly. And whatever he hit dented in the front quarter panel of his car. So obviously, whatever it was he hit, it was big. Right. And it took off into the woods. And so he he was scared. He took off, went to a little bait shop not too far away, and called the Highway Patrol. And Highway Patrol came out and met him there at the bait shop, and he took him back to the location that he hit this thing. And so policeman says, stay here. So he goes to go off into the woods to see if he can find it, because of course his concern is he hit a bear, it's injured, it's not in a good mood, or it's dead.
So it was the police officer that went back into the woods.
Yes. So he basically went down the ditch and started going into the woods, and this thing stood up in front of the police officer. And immediately the police officer, he turned around, went back to his car and started calling for backup. And that's when the whole, and 3 days of every police department and highway patrol going out looking for this thing, dogs, helicopters, you name it, trying to track this thing. And it was because of the police presence that led me to believe that this incident was real. And, and that's what got me started on, I'm like, what is this thing? I need to find out.
Because this was all happening in your town, right?
Well, it was it was northwest of me.
And so you were hearing about all of this on the news or through
right,
friends?
Exactly. I mean, it was a huge deal. 3 days to look for this thing.
Okay.
And, they found things like uprooted holly trees, or they found a dog that had been bitten in the neck by what they said was, looked like a very large human. Just things like that. They couldn't prove anything, of course, but I mean, the dogs tracked this thing. They never found it, but just the whole police presence and got me to, there's something there. Something was there. And, the description by the driver who hit it and the description by the highway patrolman that saw it. It was okay. Back then, anything a mile west of US 1 were pretty much woods, swamp, and tomato fields and things like that, farm fields. So Everglades was pretty close to where I grew up. And so this was going across the lower half of the Everglades near me.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, that is.
So fast forwarding, I guess not too much, but once you really started getting into research after that, did you have any challenges of being a woman and a Bigfoot researcher?
Well, there weren't many of us around. I mean, even researchers back then, there was, very few. And so, of course, we wrote letters, snail mail. Very few phone calls because long distance calls was expensive. Okay, I was used to it in a sense, being a woman in forestry, because in my graduating class there were only 7 women, and one was my sister. Me and so there were only 5 other women besides me and my sister. It was a challenge because, it's like, oh, women in forestry, please.
Right.
That kind of attitude. And kind of got that at the beginning because, women, their place was in the home and raising children and cooking dinner and cleaning the house. And sure, you had a job, but it was like teaching or, secretarial work or things like that. It didn't bother me because I could care less, really. But getting ahead was extremely difficult. Being taken seriously was extremely difficult back then. So you learn to grow a thick skin and not really care. You just did your thing, and that's all that mattered to me.
Right.
So.
Do you think it's better today than it was back then?
Yes, it's better. But it's still got drawbacks because human nature doesn't really change. So you've got some people that accept it, no problem. Yeah, they're just another person doing the research. And then you've got others that are like, they scoff at the idea that, a woman can be out in the woods and actually do research and, be
right. I mean, there's so many fabulous people that are doing research, men and women. But if you look at it, it's still really heavily weighted, men versus women, and that are doing it. So
exactly, because women, I know there's plenty of wonderful fathers out there that have spent plenty of time with their children, but women are the main caregivers. They go to work, they come home, they clean, they cook, they take care of the kids, and dad goes to work, comes home, and then goes off and does his thing.
Mm-hmm.
I know it sounds terrible, but it's true. I'm sorry, it's true. And being this, I was a single mom. I divorced the boy's father when I was pregnant with my third. And so as the main breadwinner and the one that, was with the children all the time and working and everything, they got stuck, unfortunately for them, going out in the woods a lot with me.
Well, I think that was probably not unfortunate. I'm sure that was an amazing thing for them.
Yes and no. I mean, one of my children is definitely not an outdoorsy person. The other two
we have a couple of those.
Yeah, okay. He's definitely climate controlled individual.
Yeah.
But it was funny because with them it was no big deal. Mom's going out to look for Bigfoot. I mean, it was no big deal.
Right.
They grew. I mean, literally from the day they were born, that was just what I did and who I was. And to this, I mean, it's like, okay, mom's doing Bigfoot stuff. No big deal. Really, it isn't. They don't have an interest in it. They're interested in things I might find or do, but they could care less about Bigfoot, really. So, yeah. But it wasn't easy.
Here's a question, Diane, that I have for you. So do you have a mentor in the Bigfoot world? Do you have somebody or maybe a couple of people that you look up to?
Well, early on, it was Bobby Short.
Okay.
As much as we argued, she guided me some in learning things and researching things. So she was a big help early on for me because she had her sighting back in 84. I think it was 84. Okay. So yeah, she was a big help to me early on. And also, I mean, I wasn't as close to Renee as Bobby was, and he was a hard nut to crack a bit. Very gruff, but very
Renee DeHenden.
Yes, Renee DeHenden, yeah. Mm-hmm. But I did learn from him as well. Peter Byrne went, because I was still living in Florida, so I would, when he had his Bigfoot research project in the Dalles near Hood River, we wrote letters back and forth. The same with John Green, wrote letters back and forth. But again, I mean, they help, but they weren't as helpful as Bobby because, again, I was a female.
Right.
And it was just that mindset. I mean, they're wonderful people, huge information and base in with their mind and all the stuff that they knew. But Bobby was mainly because she was female. She understood things and she helped me the most. Again, as much as we argued, because we didn't agree on a lot of things. But yeah, she was great. She was great.
So you're going to make me skip a question and then we'll go back because you led right into it. It was great because one of the questions I had was who is Bobby Short or who was Bobby Short? Unfortunately, she's not with us anymore.
No.
She did have I think her website is still active. I think she
that's her grandson. Yes. Yeah. He was one that helped her create that website. And bless his heart, he's, still plugging along and because she has amazing information on her website. Older stuff that people, nowadays, I mean, so many people don't even realize some of the things that had happened back in the day and information that we learned, which helped us in our own research. So yeah, her her website is important.
Yeah. So was Bobby was a researcher.
Mm-hmm.
And what area was she in?
She lived in California.
In California.
Southern
And so you
California.
said that you mentioned that she had her sighting in the mid 80s.
Yeah.
Now, was she already a researcher when she had that sighting?
No, that's what started her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's what started things for her, was her sighting. And she had seen one that was female, an older, which we perceived from what she saw, one that was sickly, older, female Sasquatch that she had encountered, which was probably the only reason why she saw it, because it was an older one.
Wow. Oh, wow. Yeah. So I would encourage the audience. Bobby Short's website is called the BigfootEncounters.com, or I think it's just BigfootEncounters.com.
Bigfoot Encounters.
And I've been on it a few times. It's so cool because it's looking at some of the old, it's just neat. I just encourage everyone just to check it out. I mean, and it's still active. I don't know if they don't really update it, but if it's her grandson doing it, bless his heart, because it's just history right there. It's just fascinating.
Yeah. She was a character. We got along so well because we were both so much alike as far as our attitudes. Because we pretty much didn't give a shit.
That's okay.
So it's funny because we actually just had Kathy Strain on our podcast last week.
Wonderful.
And she was awesome. And in Tim's book, you had mentioned that if you could go on an expedition with anyone, it would be her. So why is that?
Because she and as I said in the book, she would have my back just like I would have hers. Not many people that I know, male or female, would be out in the woods at night by themselves, because it can be intimidating to some people. Kathy is not only intelligent, strong-minded, determined, but she would be out there with me in the middle of nowhere, sitting on a log somewhere, she would be honest and truthful. And, she's always been that way. She's a wonderful, wonderful, intelligent woman. But she would be one to be out there in the woods with me in the middle of nowhere at night. And I could rely on her. And there's not many people I could say that about.
So how did you and Kathy meet?
Oh gosh, how long ago has it been? Just through research. I don't know. You meet somebody and you start talking to somebody, and it's not like we talk on the phone because I'm not a phone talker. I hate talking on the phone. And it's like, if I need something from her, I'll email her or I'll give her a quick call. It's not like we're in each other's pockets all the time, and we don't need to be. It just, yeah.
But you've met in person, right?
Oh yeah, gosh, yeah.
So have you guys done some expeditions together?
No, because she was way down in California,
right?
And I'm up here in Oregon, and I used to be in Florida, so
right.
Yeah,
so that's so cool that you have that connection for sure.
Yeah. Kathy's really cool. I just enjoy her too. She's really fun and like you said, intelligent and just a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
So can you tell us? So we want to give a little history to the audience again. Who started the international virtual Bigfoot community, and what was it?
That would be Henry Franzoni.
Okay.
Henry started that eons ago, and that's where Bobby Short and Ron Schaffner and a bunch of us were able to get together. It was like the first online group where we could, get together and discuss stuff and talk, about stuff and everything. So Henry started that, and then when he was getting tired of messing with it. So then Bobby took it over, Bobby Short.
Okay.
And then after years, then it became a Yahoo group. And then Dennis Vettner took over after that. He still has it, but it's not like it used to be, because there's so much now you can do online as far as, you know.
Right. So when it started, though, I think so. It was basically the first forum that a group of researchers could get together and communicate.
Right.
Online forum.
Yes.
So that's what springboarded. You know, I guess
all
when
of
the
them.
internet started. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Exactly.
Definitely.
So hey, Diane, also in the book, you shared a report that you investigated in Florida, where handprints were found at a water waste treatment. Can you share the background on that report?
Okay, yeah. So a good friend of mine is Thomas Steenberg.
Tim's pulling up the photo here too.
Okay. So that picture is of Debbie, the main contact I had, the witness at the water plant. And she's pointing to the handprints up on the top of the window. And if you can see, probably, a foot above her finger, you can see the top of the handprints.
Right.
So Debbie had been having incidents, and she had actually seen one at the water treatment plant because she worked the midnight shift. She worked graveyard.
Right.
And so her and her coworker would like go around at night drive around the ponds, the retention ponds at the treatment plant. And this was for wastewater to be used to water people's lawns. It was a reclamation plant. And so her and her coworker one night and they'd been having weird things happen, like sounds. The huge lids on top of the tanks would be lifted up and dropped. Okay, well, they knew they were the only ones out there. And they're like, what? Or weird things. Yeah. And so one night they were doing the rounds, which is basically driving around the ponds, which covered, I don't know, 10 more like 20 acres. And it had a road that went around the ponds. And the back section was fenced off from a canal, Addison Canal, which was it was all part of the St. John's now just, preserve, wildlife preserve. So they were going around the back end, and they came around a corner and were going around the back road at the back of the property line. And they were in their little golf cart and with the headlights on, and they're coming up to the next corner, and they see this thing peeping out behind a palm tree. And of course they stop and like, oh my gosh. And
right.
And it was lit up real good, and it was huge, and it was about half of it was still behind, well, kind of behind the palm tree, because it was bigger than the palm tree, and it kept looking out at them, and then it left, and then they scared to death. They had no idea what this was. And so after a while, Debbie contacted by letter Thomas Steenberg, who lives in British Columbia, a good friend of mine, another intelligent, wonderful, smart researcher. And so because this was literally in my backyard, Thomas contacted me and said, you want to go check this out? Because this was in Titusville, Florida, and I lived in Titusville, Mims, Florida. Okay. So I went and interviewed Debbie, and she started showing me around, and she showed these handprints they were still on the window after, they'd been there for probably a little while anyway. And she showed me the handprints, and because amazing, they were still there after days. So they were, I swabbed them because they were extremely oily. And what she said had happened was she had walked into those pane glass windows, go into the reception area where there's a reception desk with a computer on it. And so she had walked in from the back area of the office, which contains the bay where they put the trucks or work on vehicles, and some of the offices in the back. She came in to walk into that area, and she looks and sees this thing, as she called it. A Sasquatch had its hands up on the windows and was looking like this. At the computer screen, what at the time back then was the old Windows screensaver.
Oh, with the little thing bouncing around. Yeah.
And it was looking at that. And when she walked in, and it saw her, and it took off.
Whoa!
But that's how the handprints had got there. And extremely oily. I took swabs and sent those off to Todd Disatel for DNA analysis. Unfortunately, it was too degraded to be able to get anything from them. I did dust them and lift the prints. Unfortunately, now they're so faded, but those are pictures. But what you could see in some of them, the hair from the arm or the top of the hand, that was from the hair.
Wow.
And the oiliness of the hair or skin, whatever it was, leaning against the window. I sent the prints to Chilcutt. He said all he could tell was they were primate.
So Chilcutt, who's that? What's that? Who's that?
He's a primatology expert per se. He studies dermal ridges of primates.
Okay.
And so that's why I sent them off to him. He says all he could tell was that they were primate.
Not human, though. Non-human primate.
We are primates.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, but that he couldn't tell. Yeah, he can tell that they were primate.
Okay.
But not whether they were human or Sasquatch.
Obviously,
okay,
they were how tall up and
Yeah, I mean they were and it was kind of, as Debbie said, it wasn't scrunched way down, but it was kind of bent looking in. So
right.
And that's that was from the part of the palm, side of the palm. Yeah, it was just wow.
That's fascinating. And then I think Jimmy Chilcutt, he had worked for, was it the CIA or somebody?
No, not the FBI.
FBI.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah, but
I can't remember either. It's been a while. So, but yeah. So, but he said that I can definitely tell you they're primate, but I can't tell you which primate.
That's so wild. So
that's all we know. But if it was a human, it was a really, really big one and a really hairy one. But over the next couple of years, because back then we had expensive technology as far as putting cameras out, something I couldn't afford, because the manager of the plant did say that I could put cameras out there. I didn't have the money for something like that at the time. But she would actually put baskets over because the fence was about 6.5 feet tall with barbed wire at the top of it. She would put a basket full of donuts or something like that on one of the posts by the main gate to come into the plant, which was right there at the building where the handprints were, to just leave out for them. Because over the year, she had one time coming into work, she looked in her rearview mirror and saw one cross the road.
My God.
She had several experiences like that. Not to mention the big lids dropping on the tanks and things like that.
I can't imagine that being the best smelling place to hang out for a Sasquatch.
It really wasn't bad because the big tanks were holding tanks which would then drain into the ponds.
What do you think attracted them to that area? Was there something special about the area?
Curiosity? I have no idea.
Maybe because there weren't a lot of people around there.
They could be that, but it was right on the edge of Titusville.
Okay.
It was off the main highway that goes from Titusville to Orlando.
Right.
Which is just a 2-lane road right there, at the time, and then became 4-lane. Becomes 4-lane further on down. But it's I have no idea.
It is crazy.
It was right there on the outskirts, literally on the outskirts of Titusville.
Right.
So she just
And
learned to live with them at work.
yeah, I mean, it was part of the St. John's Wildlife Preserve, which is still there today. I mean, it's a huge area around the St. John's River. And, but yeah, maybe it just got curious. I don't know.
Wow.
Maybe they were curious.
So, Diane, in your opinion, what do you think Bigfoots are? What do you think they are?
Of course, primates. I lean more towards the same genus as us, but then, I mean, I asked Cliff a question, I don't know, a couple months ago when we were at a meeting, a get-together gathering, Hopsquatch, which is put on by Guy Edwards, and I asked him if he thought they were of the same genus as us, Homo, and he said, well, no, he didn't, because to be of the same genus as us, they would have to use fire and tools, of course. And then, but then I'm also thinking, yeah, we don't know whether they do or not. We don't know if they do or if they don't. So, I mean, I can be totally wrong, which is fine, because that's just, my opinion and my thoughts.
Right.
And I probably am. I don't know. But at this point, even at this point, as many years as I've been doing this, which is going on 50. Oh my God.
You look good, girl.
There's so much we don't know. There's so much.
I know, but if you had to think, like, do you think it was like, like they have like the Gigantopithecus, like, a bipedal ape that crossed the land bridge with the other Native Americans from like China and Russia? Like,
it could be that. It could be that. There's so much. There's no telling. As far as legend and Native Americans, they've been here forever, which means they were here before the Indians were here, and the Indians have been here for.
Right.
They're now finding more evidence that they've been here for 20-something thousand years, longer than they thought. Yeah. So were they here before man? Don't know. Did they come here after? Don't know. That's it would take studying them. They're intelligent. They would have to remain as elusive as they are.
Right.
We have nothing for them. We have nothing that they want.
Right.
They, I'm sure, have observed us so many times because they've been around so long. But we just don't know. Yes, by eyewitness reports, their main form of locomotion is upright bipedally.
Okay.
They're hairy. Okay. They have 5 fingers and 5 toes normally, because we all know that, there are some instances where even with, humans that you have more than 5 digits on a hand and more than 5 digits on a toe.
Or less, right. Yeah.
Right, or less. Eyewitness reports, they are probably omnivores. But that's about all. That's about all we know.
Do you think they live in family groups?
Yeah, because they're primates.
Okay.
They live in family groups, whether they're more like gorillas or more like chimps, don't know, because again, we have not been able to study them in their own habitat. I put them a level up above the great apes as far as intelligence, critical thinking type problem solving skills, things like that. But where they are, I don't know. Again, because it's frustrating at times, because in order to know them more, we need to be able to study them. That's the problem, though. It's not like you can go, study them out gorillas, because you know where they're at.
Right.
Study them for years.
Right.
Yeah, okay, they're in the Pacific Northwest, all over.
Right.
Yeah.
Or they're in, the swamps in Central Florida, but they move, they walk.
Yep.
they go from here to there to there.
Yep.
Being able to study them, I don't know if that will ever be a possibility.
Well, you never know. I mean, I've seen like documentaries about like the snow leopard.
But these aren't snow leopard. You know where to find a snow leopard.
Yeah, but they're hard to get too.
Right.
They're very hard, obviously not as hard. There's also like this this thing that they just recently discovered maybe like 4 or 5 years ago on the island of Corsica, which belongs to France. It's west of Italy in the Mediterranean Sea. Yeah. And, there was a legend about this. They call it the Chat Volpe or something like that. And of a wolf cat they've had legend for hundreds of years of this thing. And finally, one of these wolf cats got caught up in a chicken coop. And they actually got one. Yeah. And they were like, okay. And it's not a domestic cat. It's not a wolf. It looks like a domestic cat, but it's got like characteristics, and the DNA is definitely different. So that has led me to believe that these legends, these sightings, these everything is going to one day lead to somebody getting a body, whether alive or dead.
And the only chance is one being hit by a truck as it's crossing a road.
Well, I think that I've
maybe
heard some
a baby.
Stories,
it has to be a baby one too.
I've heard some stories of people, talking to people. They're driving down the road and they see this, like that one guy that we met last year. He didn't want to be interviewed in a podcast. He wanted nothing to do with it. But he mentioned that he was driving down the highway and he saw something really large in the median strip of the highway. And there were police cars and like 4 or 5 black SUVs there.
Oh.
It's like that weird thing. Like even if we did
was it alive and standing up? And
no, I think it's in a body bag.
No, it was dead. It was lying down in the median strip, like it had gotten hit by a car. And he couldn't understand in the few seconds that he had as he was passing this thing on the highway, why would there be all of these cop cars and 4 or 5 black SUVs if it was just a bear or anything else? So that leads me to believe that if we did actually get a body, that maybe there's some kind of like weird thing that the government doesn't want us to know about. Like maybe it's for forestry, for logging, that if we knew that we had a bipedal ape that lived in North America, that the timber industry would suffer. I mean, I start getting a little crazy into my things.
But I mean, it's not a conspiracy thing. It's more of look what happened with the spotted owl.
Right.
Exactly.
If you do something that, look at the territory. You can't just say, okay, this 100,000 acres is going to be their territory. No, because you're talking. Okay, whenever you talk about jobs, money, government, okay, they're going to want to be very careful. Whether it's a conspiracy, I don't know. Right. Are they going to want to be careful with it? Sure. When I lived in Florida, I had many friends that worked for NASA. Okay, on Merritt Island, and in Merritt Island, there's a certain area that you can't go on because it's restricted.
Right.
Yeah, security, and that security force that covers that area, it's part of the north end of Merritt Island, where the Cape is, and I did talk to several of the security guys there. They said, yes, they do have a book. Could I see it? No, I cannot see it. Thank you very much. They had an incident book on report of their reports when they would see a Bigfoot. And the only reason I know this because I knew several of the security guards. And these were government guys. And no, they didn't talk about it. The only reason I knew about it was because I was a Bigfoot researcher, and I guess they were, we were friends. Okay. So they told me that, yes, it was. Did I ever see this? log? No.
Well,
And
that's a great question. That's a great question for you, Diane. What would you who would you call and what would you do if you found a body, a dead Sasquatch? What would you do?
I've thought about that. So I would first of all call my close contacts.
But you would not call the police.
No.
You would not.
No. No. I would call my close contacts, and
like, what do you mean by close? Like your close colleagues in the Bigfoot world?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the ones that I completely and totally trust.
Right.
Few and far between.
Gotcha.
And we would have a powwow on what would be the best route to take on that. Yeah. And
because that's, it's kind of like,
it's not like you can drag it out because if they're 1,000 pounds,
well,
you can, but not that easily if you're by yourself.
I thought if we ever found one, we are not like researchers. We don't do expeditions, but if we just happen to be like, we love to hike, we love to be outside. I would cut it up in a whole bunch of different pieces and give one piece to all the researchers that we know. Just be like, here
you go. Thank you.
We've been calling you too, Diane. Hey, Diane.
Okay.
We got a finger for you.
And as we're cutting up, we just pray that they don't have family members around. So
I'm just saying, like, you want to get all the evidence out there dispersed to as many people as possible.
Right.
Because you just never know. You never know.
There are a few people I trust that I would contact, but there are those that I will be contacting, and then we will go from there.
So I wanted to bring up this thing. So you mentioned that you had was in Tim's book, that you mentioned you had a weird experience while following up on a report in Florida where 2 teenagers had a sighting. You were walking down a fire lane. Can you share that experience with the audience?
Yeah. I got contacted by one of the boys via email that they had seen one while they were out hunting, and they were up in the Panhandle. Okay. And so it was a long drive out there for me. So I went out to the area. It was on leased land from one of the paper companies, and went out there, walking down, per their instructions, walking down a fire lane, going to the area that they witnessed this big, huge Sasquatch, and walking along, and all of a sudden it was like hitting a wall. It was like all of a sudden I shouldn't go any further. It was just this strong feeling of, I don't need to go any further. Something is out here. And no, it was not mind speak. Okay. Right. What I felt, it was probably infrasound. Something was in the area that was whatever that, because I've been.
Did you have any physical symptoms?
No. It just,
it was just like a feeling in your gut, in your chest.
Yeah. I need to turn around and go back to my truck.
That is so weird.
Yeah.
And you've never had that before, right?
No. No.
And you did turn around and go back to your truck.
I did.
What do you think that was all about, girl? That is the weirdest thing ever.
Like I said, all I can put it down to is maybe infrasound.
Because explain to everybody what infrasound is, because we know.
Okay, infrasound is a low hertz of sound. We can't hear it.
Right.
Okay. But you can see it in things like a bull alligator during mating season. They'll give off this low growl that you can barely hear, but the water literally dances around their bodies.
Right. And we can feel it though.
Some people can, some people can't.
Like I know deaf people, I think I've heard, can feel like the vibrations of it because they're super sensitive.
Depends on the person. Even deaf, it depends on the person. Because infrasound affects people differently.
Right, and lots of different animals can produce this infrasound.
Right. Elephants, gators, rocks being pounded by the surf.
Right.
Okay, that produces infrasound.
Oh wow, I didn't know
that. So it's below our ability to hear, but it does affect physically.
Right.
It can
because it can make people feel dizzy,
and sick
nauseous.
and not right. Exactly.
Yeah,
Again,
I've heard about that.
depends on the person, but
Yeah.
it's something you can't hear, but it's something that you can physically feel.
Right. And I think it's almost like that weird, like, like these people, I don't know, I can't remember what country they were in, was it Panama or something, where they attacked the embassy with this sound.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's not the same exact thing, but it's
not the
similar.
same
Like, it
thing.
can make you feel sick.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And I've heard several people say they, what was it? Henry Franzoni used to say, call it being zapped.
Being zapped.
You know, but and it affects everybody differently. I didn't feel sick or nauseous or dizzy or ill, but I just had that strong feeling of I don't need to go any further. I need to turn around and go back.
And that's the craziest thing ever, because here you are, Bigfoot researcher, going out there to find something
Evidence.
that these teenagers were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And you seem like you're a pretty brave person. You seem like you've got thick skin, like you've mentioned before, and you're a tough person.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're feeling this thing, and you're like, okay, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I tend to go with my gut. So
that's smart.
Good. That is smart. That is smart.
Yeah.
So speaking of, you mentioned Henry Franzoni again. He and others and yourself were recently featured in a documentary, The Flash Beauty.
Yeah.
Which there's a lot of parts of that we thought were really well done. Can you share a little bit about your experience in that movie or documentary?
It was fun. It was fun. Jill and Brett are awesome. Excuse me. It was a fun experience, and I think that they did a really good job. They've got the next one coming out hopefully soon, which is going to involve a different aspect, more of a different aspect of Bigfoot research. But yeah, it was great, and I think they did a good job in putting it all together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, Tim and I remember when we first pulled it up. We have like our little patio out back, and we have like a TV there. It was like kind of like our little treat to ourselves during the lockdown, because we couldn't vacation. We're like, we're gonna make our patio like a vacation. We were out there, and we were like all cuddled up on the sofa watching this, and I was like, oh my God, baby, this is like a really amazing documentary with all these awesome people in it. But I have to ask this question, because there's so many people who want to know what you think. Like, what did you think about the ending of the documentary?
I didn't agree with it.
Okay.
I haven't seen it, but I think they deleted part of the ending because
they did. Okay.
Yeah, because that, as far as and again, I'll say those Brett and Jill are awesome individuals, intelligent. They want to find things out. They're great at interviewing and putting together this documentary. That was a suit. I'd seen that video before and pictures. It was a suit flat out.
Yeah, I mean, oh my God,
years ago.
Documentary up until that point, and our opinion was like, I think possibly one of the best documentaries that we've ever seen.
Until the last 15 minutes.
And then I saw that, I'm like,
it was a head scratcher.
What?
Yeah. No, so I'm glad that they decided to.
Did they delete that out?
I believe that they did delete it out. I haven't seen it since, but
I'm like, that looks like the Halloween Amazon.
And it was totally and again, I don't give a crap what people think.
I mean, I'm not saying it was. I'm just saying that's.
It was totally a hoax, and I'm sorry if people get upset with me saying that, because I'm sure the people that presented that.
I don't think you're upsetting anybody.
Or they have friends that are going to support them, and that's great. That was a totally hoaxed,
right?
Totally a suit.
Yeah.
And it's been around for years.
But
and
they did do an amazing job with the documentary up until that point.
Oh yeah,
I will
totally
give them that.
Yeah,
really good.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to see you on there.
Yeah, it was good. It was well put together.
Yep.
So we have a couple more questions to round it out, because we don't want to take it. You've been so gracious with your time so far. What impact do you think social media has had on the subject of Bigfoot?
A negative one.
Mm.
Everybody and his brother are researchers now. It's become a circus.
Okay.
So, I try to get people to, if they want to do research, you need to do research on research. Read books. Start with the ones that first came out. I think I know the first book I ever bought was Amby Slate and Barry's book, and then Peter Burns' book.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then I started buying the older ones, which I've got all in my bookcase. You've got to read research and see the progression of knowledge and information to where we are today, to be able to learn how to do it properly.
That
and
makes
so many
perfect
people
sense.
know, that's so neat. I want to see a Bigfoot. And so I'm going to go out and I'm going to find me a Bigfoot. Good luck with that. It's a totally negative effect. There's so many people out there now. It's
So you
ridiculous.
think they're just doing it for attention or for
a lot of them? Yes. A lot of them. I don't, so many people don't know who I am because I don't promote myself. I am just a grunt out in the woods, just literally staying out there as much as I can. I haven't been able to as much recently in the last few years because of my sister, whom I'm, now that I've got one of my sons and daughter-in-law helping me take care of her. But yeah, it's a circus out there. There are so many people out there that just want the attention, the fame, and if they can make money off of it, great. There are a lot out there that have been doing it for a long time and are known, and I'm not calling them attention whores, but there are so many out there that, they want to see a Bigfoot. They're going to go out in the woods and, oh, look, I found a big, no, you didn't. That's a rock. That's a tree. That's a shadow. Stop.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, but the chances of you seeing a Bigfoot aren't real big.
And I think, like, and I've mentioned this before, I think it's like getting struck by lightning on a perfectly sunny day out in the middle of a field somewhere.
Right.
Just do what you say you were doing. Go out, enjoy nature, love it. Most of the people I think that see Bigfoot are those people who are just doing their everyday normal
Most
things.
are chance encounters. Yeah. And one thing I want to point out is like with the nests that were found in the Olympic Peninsula. And the Olympic Project is still studying those nests. That was a chance encounter by a guy out there. What was he, cruising timber?
I think so, yeah.
Himself.
Because they were using, it was a private timber company's
exactly.
property. Yeah, I think so.
And so he found them, and then, bless his heart, thank you, he contacted the Olympic Project instead of just ignoring them and saying, oh, okay, and walking on. At least that's a little more knowledge we have on the subject.
Right.
But yeah, it's just like, people, I'm going to go on an expedition. I'm going to see Bigfoot. No, you're not. No, you're not. Bigfoot's not going to come around a group of 20 people that are out in the woods making noise.
Right.
I'm sorry. Bust your bubble, but that's the way it is.
I think it would be great, Diane, to see you at like some events. I mean, do you have any upcoming projects? Or how can the audience follow or keep up with you and what you're doing? I know you say you just want to be a grunt in the woods, but it was very interesting to hearing some of your things you had to share.
If you want to contact me, just go to my Facebook and message me. That's about the only way you're going to get me right now, because as I said, things going on in life, been busy, have my sister. I don't plan on going to, I'm planning on going to the Ohio conference in May.
We heard.
I'm so excited.
Just because there's a lot of my friends out there I haven't seen in a decade, and I just want to, hook back up with some old friends there.
We'll be there. It'll be super awesome to meet you in person.
Oh, goody. Yeah, no, I don't go to that many conferences, and I'm sorry to say, not to bust the bubbles of people that put conferences on, because it's a lot of hard work, but it's the same thing over and over again. And I've been there, done that. If I go just to see friends of mine. So,
and that's kind of what we do.
Yeah. The nice thing too about going to Ohio is at least you're like at the state park.
It's a pretty place.
So you can get like a cabin and like go hiking and fishing or whatever. And it's not, you can get away from the
hustle and bustle.
Right.
It's a wonderful atmosphere. Yes.
Yeah. You will love it.
Yeah. So, if I'm going to do any, I don't like speaking. I don't think I have anything people want to hear, honestly, because I have never seen one, so people don't care to hear what I have to say, and that's
Well,
fine.
I think they do. I think
I
they
disagree because you're here talking to us. And
Yes,
it's
you
awesome,
are.
So.
You know, I'm the too rough one. I'm like, you know, sure you saw Bigfoot, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay. Did you have hair? Let me see the evidence. Yeah. I'm a hard nut to crack, so some people don't like
Well,
that.
we need people like you, definitely, in the Bigfoot world.
And this was awesome,
It
Diane.
was awesome,
Yeah.
Thank
Diane.
you. It went
And
fast.
I did.
It
I
did,
can't
girl.
believe
Oh
it's.
my God.
I know we could have gone on. Maybe we'll do part 2. Maybe.
Maybe we'll do
Okay.
part 2 in Ohio.
No, that would be fun. I will be there. I'll get there Thursday. So.
Oh yeah, we'll see you. We'll see you Thursday. There, we're always there early. So.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, so I have to come
Super
a long way.
excited.
Also, I had a great time. Thanks so much for
Yay.
Yay, Diane.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to everybody and have everybody get to know you and what you've been doing over the years. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you, Diane. Have a great night.
Talk to you soon.
Too.
All right,
Okay,
take
bye-bye.
care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. She's so super cool.
Yeah, she's
like
awesome.
Diane. I'm really looking forward to meeting her in person.
I think like some of the individuals in the who've done this for years, Diane, as she mentioned, she's not a household name if you've studied this subject, you know who she is. But if you're just new getting into it, you may not know who she is. So I think that's what's super cool. Those are the people that fascinate me too, the ones who don't want the attention. I mean, the ones
and you know what? I think that there's a lot of them, actually.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of them are just interested in the phenomenon and what's out there and trying to find evidence and interviewing witnesses and I would definitely say Diane is all about that, less about being out and being known, but just what she's doing and what she's experienced is enough to make her known anyway. So even if she's not trying, she's still an influencer.
She's an influencer.
And she was super cool. So I'm glad we did that.
And when you see her in Ohio or anywhere else, make sure you get her to sign a chapter of the book, because that's one of the really cool features in here. It's not, the book's about them. It's not about me.
Right.
So you can get her autograph anywhere you see her.
And her chapter is definitely super interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Tim, do you want to share with everybody of how to buy the book?
Sure. So right now we have the book available at a limited number of places. We are going to release it on Amazon very soon, and Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all these the other platforms. But what I wanted to do, I thought it's important to allow the museums and the bookstores that are involved in this subject to have the opportunity to sell signed copies first.
Yeah.
So right now you can get it at the International Cryptozoology Museum. You can get it at SasquatchTheLegend.com. You can also get it at North American Bigfoot Center and at Hanger One Publishing. They all have websites. You can go right on the website. They're all signed copies. Support them. I appreciate it. Of course, you're supporting us with the podcast and the book, so we thank you so much for that. And how else can people follow us?
Well, you can go to Untold Radio AM on YouTube and like and subscribe. That way we can get lots of followers and you won't miss out on any of our upcoming episodes. You can follow us on Facebook at The Bigfoot Influencers, Instagram, The Bigfoot Influencer, Twitter, BF Influencers, and our website is thebigfootinfluencers.com. So you got all that info, and we're looking forward to seeing you at the next episode.
Thanks, everyone.
All right,
thanks for tuning in.
Have a great night. Thank you.